Welcome to my latest video series on leading in uncertainty. It's a sort of FAQ where I try to answer typical questions asked of me at the moment. In the first episode, I'm going to be looking at the qualities that seem to be setting leaders apart right now. So why not take a moment to check out how well you're tracking? Well, if I was to put anything at the top of the list at the moment, I think it would be holding hope. Fear can be a very dominating thing. And so as leaders, it's really important that we actually are able to hold hope for the staff that we actually lead. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, first of all, it's obviously showing up with positivity. So having that energy, that can-do attitude, that we'll get through it type of approach, if you like. Although that's not enough, is it? Because hope is not a strategy. So we also need to have some sort of plan. And at the moment, it's really quite difficult to have a firm plan. So it's really about what's the plan at the moment. So being really clear, I think, around what you know and what you don't know. So it doesn't look like it's an unrealistic optimism. But still letting people know that within the unknowns and the uncertainties, there still is some degree of strategy and plan in terms of moving ahead. So how do you think you're going at the moment in terms of holding hope? As leaders, we know it's really, really critical that we role model the values that are important. And in fact, to a large extent, the culture within a team can be definitely impacted by the values that we show as leaders. So which ones are most important? Well, no surprise, humanity is what we need to be showing right now. And that shows up in the degree of care that you're showing people and compassion. So again, thinking about how you might have shown up in terms of care and compassion this week, what have you actually done? Has it been checking in a little bit more? Has it been taking an interest in what's going on in people's out of work life? Has it been a bit of flexibility and compassion around things that people aren't able to do as well as they normally do right now? So care and compassion would definitely be the critical values. In a crisis, one of the critical aspects of leadership is to be really clear. You know, people have some sort of confidence when you are really clear in what you're saying. And of course, consistency is also really important. So we need to be speaking the truth. This is a time not for sugarcoating, but to let people know the reality with clarity and consistency. But it's also about being vulnerable as well. And I've called this aspect being confidently vulnerable. It's one of my favorite constructs, because we have to be confident, don't we? Because we've got to be really clear and consistent. So that degrees a certain amount of assertiveness and confidence. But we also don't want to be the holder of everything that's going to be happening, because we simply don't know. And so making it clear that you don't have the answers, and it's engaging in what we call distributed leadership, making sure that everyone has some input into problem solving. That's a really important part right now. So if we're being confident but vulnerable, we are being very clear and consistent and strong about what we do know, but we're also not saying, well, we know all the answers. We're saying, well, these are the bits that we don't know that we need to actually work out together. So clarity, consistency, but vulnerability that, hey, this is new for me too, and we all need to work together on what the answers are actually going to look like going forward. Which leads to my next point. I mean, one of the areas that we need to be thinking about at the moment as leaders is seeking the wisdom of others. Whenever we're going into, what we tend to be calling at the moment uncharted waters, then what you might have done previously to sort out issues and provide direction might not actually be useful in terms of going forward. So we talk a lot now about the death of the heroic leader, you know, the person who is making all the decisions and is using their past experience, if you like, to inform what to do next. It's clearly a time when we need to be collaborating and seeking the wisdom of others. So who are you linking in a little bit more with in order to do your scenario planning and your problem solving? What sort of wisdom might you need right now? And of course, that's within your team as well. But outside of your team, who might those people be? And just doing a check-in on yourself as to how much have you reached out lately, or have you, in the pressure and the stress, bunkered down a little bit and focus more on your piece of the equation, if you like, whether it be your staff or your department. So have a think about that. To what extent do you think you're seeking the wisdom of others right now? And the final aspect that is, again, really differentiating, I think, some leaders at the moment is the extent to which you're finding opportunity in the adversity. And when you think about entrepreneurship, of course, entrepreneurs by their very nature are incredibly opportunistic. I think what might be different here is that we need to be opportunistic for the greater good rather than for the economic good and the viability of our organization. And of course, we're seeing some amazing innovation at the moment happening where companies are just remanufacturing the way in which they're doing things, or the products that they're actually making, ventilators, for example, and protective, personal protective equipment, you know, gin distillers making sanitizer and so on. So this relates a little bit to what I was saying earlier around holding hope, because leaders at the moment need to be talking about growth, not survival. So as soon as we're getting into that, you know, we've got to survive and we've got to get through this, we're going a little bit into the pessimism. We're not really looking to the horizon. And this can be quite tricky at the moment, because as leaders, you might not find there's much of an horizon, which is why seeking the wisdom of others and collaborating and getting others involved in the problem solving is a critical piece for you to confidently feel that you can talk about growth, not survival. So have a listen to the language that you're using at the moment when you're speaking with people. Is it around the potential, or is it around the disastrous reality? What are you speaking to at the moment, do you think, when you're talking with others? And as we know, disruption historically has been the most amazing impetus for innovation. And so we're seeing incredible innovation happening and lots of collaboration to innovate. So what could you do in this disruption to innovate? So there are just a couple of the themes that I'm seeing at the moment in terms of what might be setting some leaders apart from others. So again, checking in on yourself, you know, are you holding hope? Are you being optimistic? Are you, you know, merging your plan? Are you doing that with an overarching value of care and empathy and compassion? Are you quite confident, you're clear and consistent in your messaging, but you're also saying, hey, I don't know either, you know, we're all in this together and we need to work it out together. And does that mean you're seeking out the wisdom of others so that you can actually get a more consistent, clear direction ahead? And of course, what's your mindset around this? Is that opportunity or is it adversity? You know, what are you doing around the potential that this disruption is causing for innovation? And the final thing I will say is we also still need to take the hard decisions. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you're actually looking forward and you are looking at the opportunities and the innovation, I'm seeing leaders making some quite firm decisions around what staff do they need on the journey right now. So it's a situation where making those decisions is probably quite critical. What customers do I want to be serving in the future? Which are the ones that are actually going to be helping our viability? and what might I need to do around being clear around how I'm going to financially manage the path ahead, which could be quite tricky. So in the next episode, I'm going to be talking about some of the common leadership mistakes to avoid. So today I've talked about setting yourself apart, but next time it'll be a little bit of a heads up on what you need to make sure that you what you don't do in terms of mistakes. So until then, go well and stay resilient.